Hello everybody, welcome to my Mac Studio overview for the 2025 Mac Studio with the M4 Max processor. Today I'm going to be doing an overview and unboxing of this device and giving a cinematographer's review on how it performs in editing and the real life benefits of the particular spec and decoder chip inside, and additionally doing a comparison with a PC to show the real difference and the value proposition that Mac holds for users and editors. Anyways, let's get right into the unboxing. Now, to delve into the specifications on the Mac Studio for 2025, there are 4 different processor options, 2 of which are the M4 Max and 2 of the other which are the M3 Ultra. Slightly older M3 Ultra will yield higher core counts but slower clock speeds, vice versa with the M4 Max with higher clock speeds and lower core count. Different options for different tasks. Now I chose the M4 Max chip as it was the best processor for me. The 16 cores of CPU and 40 cores of GPU was exactly what I was looking for, as it allows me to do the most that I need with rendering real-time effects in Premiere, as I can run more effects with the GPU accelerated rendering, and in addition, the final render export for both 3D applications in After Effects and Blender will go much quicker, as there's more GPU cores to handle each of those sections of the frame faster. And in addition, in Premiere, it'll handle effects much better as well. But the real gem about this system compared to my previous system is the decoder that I much appreciate. Additionally, I chose 64 gigs of RAM as it's the perfect in between, because I don't want to spend too much as for economy reasons. And in addition, it's just enough for multiple compositions in After Effects and in Photoshop, where I can do everything I need without worrying about running out of RAM. On Windows, however, I have noticed that it does a much worse job of optimizing how applications are utilizing RAM, where applications can hog RAM without Windows doing anything about it, where Mac does a far superior job of giving RAM where it needs to be and isolating foreground tasks from background tasks when you're utilizing the device. Additionally, I chose 1 terabyte of onboard storage, as that seems perfect for me, and I'm using an external storage with 2 terabytes specifically for my projects. Now we'll get into that later, but I also think it's important to have a dedicated cache drive as well for both all your Adobe applications, but also for other future applications as well. Having a drive that can be read and written to consistently without putting the burden on your main onboard local disk that's running your operating system has huge upsides for editors and content creators that are looking to be more efficient and utilize hardware a lot smarter. Now, to talk about the I/O on the Mac Studio, I love the 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports. This is revolutionary for Mac, as in this implementation allows for so much greater flexibility. Forward compatibility as devices get faster and faster. CFX can take advantage of this. Higher bandwidth disks and things can take advantage of this, but not fully, as Thunderbolt 4 is very fast, but that's just the forward-thinking nature of this particular port. And this will be around for a while, and it's super nice to see 4 of them. Some of the USBs, having only 2 is very limited, but you have to remember it is USB 3.2 with 10 gigs of bandwidth. So with a hub, you could add, several SD card readers. Next, I would like to talk about the differences in the Mac Studio and the PC when utilizing a format like long GOP that utilizes PNB frames in comparison to intraframe, where you have each frame recorded with no compression. This difference is absolutely huge between these 2 systems. As you can see, the absolute stutteriness in the Windows system in comparison to the buttery smooth, no frames dropped of the Mac. This demonstrates the potential and the value proposition that the Apple decoder has. Now, if you're looking for similar performance on a PC for this particular format with long GOP, 10-bit 422, to get this kind of decoding capability, you're going to have to get at least a 50 series card with Blackwell. This is highly expensive, and with Mac Studio having it built in to be able to decode 422 10-bit long GOP, this is absolutely perfect. Now, if it were 8-bit on the other hand, my Intel QuickSync decoder built into my CPU on the PC would handle this. Now, because newer footage with 10-bit requires more niche in decoding, having a dedicated decoder that can do this is highly beneficial. Now, I ran Signbench on both of the systems out of curiosity, and the PC yielded 6,525, and then the Mac scored 17,226 points. I thought this was an astronomical difference. And then we moved down to the CPU. It yielded 2,094, and the CPU multi-core of the PC, on the other hand, yielded 417. And then on the Mac, it yielded, for the CPU single core, 189 points, and the PC yielded 68 points. This is a huge difference of a 3 to 4x bump between the systems. Now, does this mean that the Mac performs 3 times or 4 times better than the PC consistently? Not necessarily. However, in this specific test, it did show these specific results. And this can't be a generalization for all PCs versus Mac, but in my specific situation, this example does show quite a big difference. Next, in this project that I did with some multicam clips, in addition, it has some light color grading, the PC didn't do too well. We see that the Mac took 1 minute and 20 seconds to render, as the PC took 4 minutes and 12 seconds. This difference is pretty astronomical. And just to throw another device in the ring, running a whole different processor, this is just the base M3 in a MacBook Air that has no cooling in comparison to the PC's 360mm radiators with 3 fans on each of it, running at 1500 RPMs. We can see that even the Mac crushed the PC at 2 minutes and 6 seconds for this particular project, all rendered at the same settings. This is kind of an interesting comparison where we see this sort of comparison where the Mac actually does better and may even offer better value, as the Silicon is just leaps ahead in both its physical performance, but also I do sincerely believe that Premiere is doing some heavier optimization on this particular chip in comparison to the Intel or Ryzen based counterparts. As if you think about it, Mac only has a few different processors in its Silicon lineup over these generations, where on a Windows system, Premiere and Adobe and other software developers have to develop their software for thousands of chips on Windows in comparison to Mac. So this heavy optimization, in addition to just the physical hardware advantage that Mac has, I believe demonstrates a huge value proposition for this device, for editors specifically.